You have slept outside, maybe in a tent, maybe under a canopy of trees, with nothing between you and the dark but a thin layer of nylon. Maybe on a beach, where the tide came in slowly and the sounds around you shifted as the night deepened. And you woke up. That seems obvious, unremarkable. Of course you woke up. But consider where you were, in terrain shared with animals that could have reached you before you heard them coming, in the range of predators built over millions of years to move silently through exactly the kind of darkness that surrounds a sleeping person. A leopard can cover 10 meters in under a second. A black bear can smell a food source from nearly 30 kilometers away. A lion can stalk through grass at a crouch so low its belly nearly brushes the ground, closing distance without a single sound loud enough to register. And you slept through the night. This happens quietly millions of times a year across every wild landscape on Earth. Hikers, campers, researchers, indigenous communities, sleeping in open structures at the edge of forest, at the boundary of territories claimed by some of the most effective hunters evolution has ever produced. And the predators overwhelmingly pass by. The question is not whether this happens. It clearly does. The question is why. The first instinct is to say that predators simply are not interested, that humans are not prey, that lions eat wildebeest and bears eat salmon, and the human body is simply not on the menu. But that is not quite right. And this is where the real answer begins to surface. Because predators are opportunistic. Not all of them, not always, but the architecture of predatory behavior includes a capacity to assess and exploit available opportunity. A leopard that normally hunts impala will take a baboon if the conditions align. A tiger that has spent its life avoiding human settlements will sometimes enter one when prey density drops below a threshold the body cannot tolerate. Predators are not locked into a single target. They are locked into a process of cost-benefit evaluation that the brain runs continuously below consciousness every time a potential prey animal enters sensory range. And when that process runs on a sleeping human, something specific happens. The numbers do not add up. Every night you sleep outside, something walks past you in the dark and decides to keep moving. Here's what most people get wrong about predators. It's not aggression that triggers a hunt. It's not even hunger alone. What initiates the full predatory sequence, the stalk, the approach, the strike, is a very specific cluster of inputs that the predator's brain recognizes as prey movement. The particular gait of an animal that doesn't know it's being watched. Sound, the acoustic signature of something alive and unaware. Posture, a silhouette that matches the predator's internal template for something worth chasing. A sleeping human disrupts every single one of these. The movement is wrong. Or rather, there's almost none. Prey fidgets. Prey produces the constant micro-movements of an alert nervous system. A sleeping human produces slow, rhythmic breathing that does not match the template. The smell is wrong. We carry a scent profile unlike any prey animal on Earth. Synthetic materials, cooked food, soap, fire, metal, and underneath all of it, a primate odor that is deeply unfamiliar to most large predators. An unfamiliar smell doesn't trigger predatory response. In many cases, it triggers the opposite, caution. But here's where it gets strange. Because the data shows something most people aren't prepared for. Camera trap studies across multiple African ecosystems have recorded lions, leopards, and hyenas moving through areas where humans were sleeping, not hundreds of meters away, within meters, and altering their path without initiating any contact, not fleeing, not freezing, simply adjusting trajectory and continuing. In a long-term study in Zambia's South Luangwa Valley, researchers found that lion paths consistently curved away from active human campsites at night. The lions weren't avoiding the area entirely. They were navigating around the specific coordinates of human presence with a precision that implied not just awareness, but active spatial decision-making. They knew exactly where the humans were. they chose a different line. And this wasn't random. It was consistent across individuals, across nights, across seasons. Not a fear response to something unfamiliar, a learned, stable behavioral rule integrated into how those lions moved through their world. The lion is not afraid of the sleeping human. It is making a calculation about the sleeping human. And the calculation, almost every time, produces the same result. Not worth it.
Now, what drives that calculation? We are large. Not the largest animal in most ecosystems, but large enough that a failed attack carries real injury risk. A leopard that misjudges a target and takes a kick to the face may lose the ability to hunt effectively for weeks. That is not a recoverable error when your survival depends on successful kills. We are unfamiliar in ecosystems where humans haven't historically been prey. Predators have no internal template for how we respond when attacked. Unknown response patterns increase risk assessment automatically. The predator's nervous system flags the unfamiliar as dangerous by default, because an animal you've never successfully hunted is an animal whose capabilities you cannot model, and we are historically dangerous.
This isn't metaphor. Across tens of thousands of years, predators that approached humans too closely died for it. Spears, fire, traps, group retaliation. The predators that survive in any ecosystem where humans have been present long enough are measurably the descendants of the ones that stayed away. The caution you encounter in the wild isn't just individual learning. In many species, it is the output of selection pressure applied across hundreds of generations. There are exceptions, and the exceptions reveal the rule.
Man-eating behavior in large predators almost always follows a specific pattern. The animal is injured or old, or the prey base has collapsed. The Tsavo lions, responsible for killing dozens of railway workers in Kenya in 1898, were later found to have severe dental disease. They could not execute their normal hunting technique on their normal prey. They switched to something that offered less resistance. Remove those compounding factors, and the pattern returns. Healthy predators with adequate prey overwhelmingly choose avoidance. The attack is the exception. The passing by is the rule. And the rule holds even at night, even when you're asleep, even when by every measure of physical vulnerability, the moment should be ideal.
And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because what the data actually suggests is that the safety of a sleeping human in predator territory is not primarily a function of your own defenses. It is a function of the predator's decision, a decision made quietly, in the dark, while you are unconscious and completely unaware. A researcher spent years sleeping in the open in lion territory in Botswana, not in a tent, on a simple cot as part of a long-term study on predator behavior. He was never attacked.
But the camera traps around camp recorded over years of footage. Lions walking through the site at night, hyenas pausing at the edge of the firelight and moving on, a leopard sitting for nearly 40 minutes at the perimeter before turning and disappearing into the bush. He said the most unsettling part of reviewing that footage was not the proximity, it was the quality of the predator's attention. The leopard was not confused, it was not afraid. It was watching with the calm, evaluative focus of an animal that has all the time in the world and is in no particular hurry to make a decision it might regret. It sat. It watched. You will sleep outside again, and in the hours you are unconscious, the world around you will be awake and moving. Things will pass close enough to hear your breathing. They will smell you. They will register your presence, a large, still, unfamiliar shape in the dark, and almost all of them will keep walking, not because you are safe, not because the wild is gentle, but because the wild is precise. And a sleeping human, to a predator reading the environment with the full sophistication of millions of years of evolutionary calibration, is a complicated thing to explain. Something large, something strange, something that smells like fire and metal and history, something that is almost never worth finding out about. The predator makes its calculation and moves into the trees, and you sleep on.
never knowing how close the decision was or how quietly it was made.